sometime about an hour or two ago, January 5th, 2018, a person close to Nicholas Cruz contacted the FBI's public access line, PAL, tip line to report concerns about him. The caller provided information about Cruz's gun ownership, desire to kill people, erratic behavior, and disturbing social media posts, as well as the potential of him conducting a school shooting. All right, this is what Ray said. He's the FBI director, Christopher Ray. We are still investigating the facts. I am committed to getting to the bottom of what happened in this particular matter, as well as reviewing our processes for responding to information that we receive from the public. It's up to Americans to be vigilant, blah, 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 blah. We have spoken with the victims and the families and deeply regret the additional pain this causes all of those affected by this horrific tragedy. All of the men and women of the FBI are dedicated to keeping the American people safe and are relentlessly committed to improving all that we do and how we do it. Well, here's my suggestion to Mr. Ray. And I am not an FBI guy. I wouldn't know anything about it. I do know that J. Edgar Hoover ran a damn thing for 50 years and was a crook. Let's not forget that. And J. Edgar Hoover formed the FBI. Let's not forget that. But here's what I, hated blacks and everything, hated King, everything. But that's neither here nor there. Here's what I will tell Ray. Here's what you do, Chrissy, baby. You get your people off the college campuses where nobody in America gives a crap about. Get them off the steroids thing, which America has been convinced that also nobody cares about. And here's what you do. You get them investigating every tip that you get, and you make sure that this doesn't happen again. Because you know what, Chris Ray? The FBI, they're the ones who have blood on their hands, Parkland, Florida. That is fact. That is fact. They had this guy dead to rights on January 5th, did nothing about it. In the meantime, they were investigating whether Chuck Person used money from Adidas to get some kid to go to Auburn. Like anybody in America gives a crap. Anybody. Cam Newton went to Auburn. We know how he got there. They won a championship. Does anybody at Auburn care about how Cam Newton got to Auburn? Anybody there? Anybody who pays those tickets who lives Auburn football, do they give a crap that there was some shady dealings of getting Cam Newton to Auburn? Anybody? Hear me. Let me hear that. Anybody? For all the issues about Louisville, they still drew 19,000 a game in that arena, and they're 18-8 and they're making the NCAA tournament. That's all they care about. This is life and death. Chuck Person, Sean Miller, not life and death. Here's Peter in Sacramento, California. Peter, good afternoon. How are you today?
Hey, Chris. How are you?
Pete, good to have you aboard.
I have two things, one on the gun and one on the FBI, if you'll give me a shot here. On the gun, I agree with you, and I don't hear anybody bring this point up with the fact that if he's got an AR-15, it's made to kill a lot of people. So let's just say that he had a lesser gun. He may have only killed 8 people.
Well, we've talked about that 1,000 times. A handgun is not going to kill 17 people in 6 minutes. Right. That's for sure.
Right. And that's what the people that are on this side of the gun control thing. They
don't recognize. Well, they're afraid if they relent on one thing that we'll go back to prior to 1791. All these gun guys who somehow think they're historians and want to tell you about the Second Amendment, who, if I quizzed them, wouldn't even know who devised the Second Amendment. But that's neither here nor there. Go ahead. Continue.
I mean, if the kid really wanted to do damage, you could have bought an AK-47, but you can't buy it because it's not legal. So he went out and bought the next best thing, which was actually legal. So that's the scary part of this.
After he got thrown out of school with knives in his possession. Think about that for a minute. Okay, a guy who got thrown out of school because he carried knives was able to walk into a store and buy this kind of rifle. I mean, think about it. It's America. It's amazing that America allows this to happen. It's incredible.
I know. And I'm going to play devil's advocate a little bit on the FBI, and I in theory, I agree with you, but here's the problem with it. Everything you mentioned about what the FBI investigated and what they did, unfortunately, none of those are a crime. So this is not Minority Report. We can't arrest people before they commit a crime. They have to actually commit a crime.
This kid with that post should have had 24 hours, should have had a 24-hour watch on him. Instead of farting around there, Pete, with 9 million people investigating some college thing that, again, victimless and nobody cares.
I agree, but
take people off that and figure out on January 5th. Hold on now. I see posts. He owns a weapon. He got thrown out of school. He's not stable. We gotta keep an eye on this kid, and they did not do that. That is their job. That is their job, is to protect the American public, and they did not do that here. They didn't do it. There's no way around it. They dropped the ball. Now, there's a lot of reasons of why this kid did what he did. The parents, the foster family allowed him to bring a gun in. The gun laws. There's a million reasons. But the FBI had a tip two of them, right on their fingertips, and didn't investigate it. And it's not like they couldn't do anything about it there, Peter. They didn't even investigate it.
Yeah.
They didn't call the Miami office. So if you're going to tell me, Pete, that they did investigate and they were hamstrung because they couldn't arrest him on anything, they didn't even do that. They did nothing. They didn't know the kid existed. They didn't examine their leads. That's the problem. If they were on top of this and somehow he slipped through the cracks in the last 24 hours and the FBI, was right on his tail, but he was able to do this, I could at least understand it. They did nothing. They had a lead over a month ago. They never even looked into it. Did they send an FBI agent to the kid's house? They did not. Why not? Tell me why they didn't send a group of FBI agents to the kid's house.
Well, the guy that called you earlier, the cop.
He's the cop. He's not an FBI agent. He's a policeman. The FBI agent, they got a tip from somebody who knew the kid. Told him about the behavior. Did the FBI show up at the kid's house or dollar bet the place that he worked to figure out what was going on with the kid? Did they examine the kid? They did not. Now, why?
Know what the protocol is. I'm not an FBI.
But did they actually knock on the door? At least the 30 cops, Pete, knocked on the door. Did the FBI, when they got this lead on January 5th, did they send a group of FBI agents to Parkland, Florida, and knock on the kid's door and find out what the hell was going on?
No, obviously not.
Why?
I don't know.
Well, why are they examining this college basketball nonsense that nobody gives a crap about? Take a couple of guys off that and investigate this. Add manpower.
You're right. And by the way, your producer today, just to give him kudos, he lets you know when you're about to come on the line. So that is how you produce a radio.
Well, good point. I've been trying to teach him that so we don't have the gap in between the seconds. You hate when you answer the call and it takes 6 seconds for the person to respond. That's partly my fault because I jump around a little bit. But Eddie is beginning to learn. And we're getting a little better. Here's Joe in Connecticut, and he's on Mad Dog Unleashed. Joe, good afternoon. How are you today?
Hey, Chris, long-time listener, been listening in for many years. I almost hate to call and end up agreeing with you on basically everything. Nobody cares about the Louisville kid who got a couple bucks. I'm a huge sports fan. I'm not even the biggest college basketball fan, but no one cares. Everybody's going to root for their team. It is a victimless crime. You actually hit the nail right on the head. With our politicians, Chris, people need to – this is what I would say. Everybody today should be reading in your local paper – my paper happens to be the New York Times – in your paper about these 17 kids and administrators who were murdered. If you're a parent, everybody should read that story. I'm driving down the Connecticut Turnpike. All of the flags are at half. Everybody should know, as Americans, folks should read this article and think about that. And there's blood on the hands of the politicians in Washington. These politicians that want to be in office forever and have not done anything about gun control, even if it's symbolic, ever. We need to vote them out of office.
That's the only way you're going to be able to do this. And I'm telling you right now, I've said this to a lot of people who have made a big deal about me making a big deal about this. Oh, Chris, shut up. You don't know what you're talking about. It's not our fault. You know what? One of these days, somebody you love is going to be picked off by some nutcase with a rifle. Someday, Marco Rubio, God forbid, but someday some jerk, some guy who's got demons flying around is going to walk into some place where maybe Marco Rubio or Ted Cruz or Paul Ryan or the president is going to walk into his little schoolyard and start shooting up people. And one day that's going to hit home. It's going to pick you off. Something has to be done, but the way to do it, and then the real joke is the politician saying it's too soon. We have to mourn the victims. Oh, shut the hell up, will you please? Trump doesn't even have the guts to, in his condolences the last few days on Twitter, at least acknowledge, yes, the guns are an issue. At least acknowledge it, because the whole world knows it is, except the Republicans and the wackos of the NRA. Everybody knows it is. You can't put all the blame on mental illness, because if you do, there's nobody who's mentally ill in Britain? How many times does Britain have this issue? Have you read, I can think of once in the last 30 years. Have you read anywhere where they've been, about 15 shootings in America since January 1st? How many in Britain? Were they all sane in Britain? FBI, blood on your hands. Christopher Wray, that is you. We continue.